What is going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Arm NBA DFS Playbook Show. It is 10 games on a Tuesday here, James. Plenty of injury news, fortunately, that we've gotten already. Some news that we are still waiting on, but fortunately as well, those are for some 7 p.m. kickoffs, tip-offs. So we'll have maybe some of that injury news ahead of time here for us as well. So all in all, what could have been a pretty disastrous slate with certain players' statuses, us waiting on. We kind of got a lot of the news we were hoping to get before roster lock here tonight.
Nothing like the old 7 o'clock kickoff. Love those in the NBA, especially on the kickoff on the hardwood. I think that's, love that. Just poking fun.
I just came from one show to another.
I know.
What do you want from me?
It's an interesting slate. It is a lot better knowing, as opposed to like last night where we did a whole show just basically saying like, well, the De'Aaron Fox news is gonna determine the slate. And honestly, there was a lot of low-owned options in that late game that had really big nights and mostly on the Kings side of things, not on the Cleveland side of things. But tonight, even with the 10 p.m. game being with Golden State, we know Steph Curry's out already. The Trae Young becoming a father of 2, he's already been ruled out. So it is nice to have news out early, John. That is not generally the NBA's way of doing things.
No.
Maybe because it's the in-season tournament. Maybe the in-season tournament is once again bringing to the forefront, all right, we got to get the news out. It's a big day for the NBA. It's an important day. They're stressing the in-season tournament today. So
yeah, that's actually a good point. That really honestly could be a reason that we're seeing the news come out now. Because in the past, with some of these 10 p.m. games, we wouldn't have gotten that Steph Curry news at noon today. We would have had to wait for that game at 9:30. We're still waiting on the LeBron news. We did get word that he was at practice today, which is a positive sign, right? We got the midday downgrade of Gordon Hayward and Brandon Williams, so maybe they won't be available. Brandon Miller, rather. They won't be available for Charlotte here this evening. We got the San Antonio news early with no Keldon, no Trey Jones. We'll see if Jeremy Sohan is in or out, but I have to imagine, wouldn't he have been ruled out?
Probably.
Right?
Yeah,
if he was going to be ruled out, it'd be weird for them to wait till 7 to rule him out when everybody else got ruled out already. So, listen, some news in, some news out already. We're waiting on Joel Embiid news, but that was 8 to 7 p.m. roster lock. So we'll know ahead of time if he's in or out here. So that's also a positive. We know Ben Simmons now expected to miss some time with the nerve issue. So, the Brooklyn situation's rather clear. They ruled out Markelle Fultz last night for Orlando. You mentioned they ruled Trae Young out already this afternoon. So, a lot of the news that we were hoping to get when we recorded our preview show last night, we fortunately have gotten. Realistically, we're just waiting on the LeBron news because we'll know the NBA news before roster lock today.
Yeah, it's great. That's such a great feeling, especially because the Embiid news is such a slate-breaking thing because Tyrese Maxey could potentially have the team to himself in one of the best matchups on the board. Shout out you, Faisal, in the chat, nice and early. Good afternoon to you, good sir, as you pop in like you do every single day, right?
Yeah.
So shout out to Faisal and the rest of the FA Nation here, John.
When looking at today's spreads and matchups here, James, let's pull up the board and talk about where we're looking to go. We had the biggest line movement of the day coming from that Steph Curry injury news there, where the Warriors went from 4.5 point favorites at home to now 2.5 point underdogs at home here. How much does that now change your interest in Minnesota Golden State?
Did you know this, John, that going into tonight, the Warriors have one person on their team that has scored 20 points in a game?
I didn't.
Think about that for a second. This year.
It's not great. Doesn't sound great.
So Steph Curry's played 11 games. They have 11 20-point scorers. Steph Curry is all 11 of them. So, talk about a guy who needs some help. And they're going to find out really quickly how good they can be because Steph Curry's out and expected time. So, like, I mean, that game not only, as you mentioned, went from 4.5 point favorites in for Golden State to 3-point dogs, went from a 222.5 total to a 216.5 total. Like, Minnesota's already the number one ranked defense in the NBA. I'd be hard pressed to get to much of that game. We talk about this a lot. Big slates, sometimes, some games get crossed off your board, and I'm not that game is completely crossed off. In years past, we'd be like, oh, easy, Clay, pivot, Draymond, pivot, Wiggins, pivot. But like Kerr, to begin with, when you look at the minutes that these guys have played, like it's really hard to even like anybody. Curry was the only one playing minutes with any consistency. Klay Thompson, 31 minutes per game, is the second best on the team. And Klay Thompson has not looked good this year. So, some darts if you're playing multiple lineups, but like definitely not it's definitely the worst game environment on the board. I'm just going to flat it's the worst game environment on the board without Steph Curry.
Yeah, FanDuel is a little interesting for the Clay price. He's only $5,400 over there.
Yeah.
Which I feel like may make him one of the highest rostered players on the slate. Even regardless of the matchup there now, just that price point doesn't take him a lot to get there if he is taking more shots with no Steph out there. So that's certainly one game to pay attention to. We have some pretty high game total games here on the slate as well. Pacers, 76ers, Dallas, New Orleans, San Antonio, OKC, all games are pretty high totals. Now, the Thunder Spurs game has a pretty big spread in that one as well. So more likely than not, we're going to see a blowout there, but some competitive games that we're looking at as well. Yeah,
Spurs on the road as a young team without two of their best players. Not great. They looked good against Phoenix on the road for whatever reason twice in a row, but they've got blown out in pretty much every other road game they've played this year. So they're going to need another big Wemby performance there. But yeah, I mean, there's elite game environments in the games you're talking about. Indiana, Philly, 241.5 totals actually up from open. The 238 in San Antonio, OKC is actually up from where the line opened as well. I talked about it on the show this morning, the whole show, Dallas, New Orleans, 240 total in that, where Dallas is the second highest rated offensive team in the NBA. They're also one of the worst defensive rated teams in the NBA. So there's a lot to like on this slate when it comes to just fantasy goodness in general, John. So Bart Scott can't wait. Let's get into this.
Your thoughts on one more thing here. The Denver Clippers game. It's only a 4.5 point spread. Denver's at home here. Clippers are losers or 5 straight. They're 0-5 against the spread on the season. They also just lost as an 8-point home favorite outright to Memphis, giving Memphis their second win of the season. Does that line feel off to you? Does it feel like Denver should be favored by more than 4.5?
Maybe. I mean, you look at Denver, they were like minus 26 in 12 non-Jokic minutes last game, right?
Mm-hmm.
In theory, the Clippers have a lot of talent on their team that if they click at once, they could be really good. That's obviously just in theory because they haven't done that. So in those non-Jokic minutes, generally you have Jamal Murray to combat them.
Sure.
Where Michael Porter is better because he plays off Jokic, and Aaron Gordon, as well as he's playing, isn't Jamal Murray with creativity and the way he can run an offense. So I understand it. Denver, I get it. I get it from where Vegas is looking at it. The Clippers should.
To me, it feels like that they're getting credit for having name talent, but they're not playing well. They're just, they haven't been a good team. So that's kind of where I'm coming into it. I feel like something that line feels off. So either Denver, I think, is going to win handily, or what if we got some sort of late questionable news or something like that on the Denver side of this game.
That I feel like that news would not be a Jokic thing. It would probably be a secondary Gordon Porter piece, right? Sure. That would probably be because they can, as long as Jokic is on the floor, you could put Christian Brown, Connor Gillespie, Julian Strawther and like Justin Holiday out there and probably still be competitive, right?
That's probably true. That's probably true. All right, let's get into this slate here. Let's talk point guards. We talked about it on the show last night. Nothing really has changed too much for me here. If you want to play Halliburton against the Philly 76ers, that's fine. But, don't really love SGA knowing with the way this game could turn out. LaMelo Ball against Miami, they're risk of getting blown out all the time anyways. Now they might not have Hayward or Miller. Do we know there's no Rozier? I worry a little bit about that spot. Luka, to me, with the way Irving's been playing, a little tough to spend up for him at 11-8. So I kind of just found myself going right down into this 8K, high 8K range where you have Maxey, Irving, and DeJounte Murray all right here, all right after one another. Where do you think the rostership lands on tonight?
I'm a little uncertain because, like, even when you look at the ownership updated over at fantasyland.com, it's not really going to any of these guys, which is a little surprising. I was a little surprised to see DeJounte not getting a little more love, especially without Trae Young. That's just like seemingly such a transitionless plug, like into your lineup. $8,300 point guard to shooting guard against a bad Detroit defense. That's such an easy play. I think it just comes down to like there's so many of these guys that are so good across every position that it's just like pick the guy you think is going to go off for the highest ceiling. I think Maxey, like if I were to rank spots, I would rank them actually how they're probably priced. I think Indiana is the best spot for one like of the three. Not just because Tyrese Maxey scored 50, but Indiana plays incredibly fast and plays no defense. Maxey is also going to be probably the highest owned play of the slate if Joel Embiid ends up being ruled out. And you alluded to it on the podcast this morning, front end of a back-to-back for Philly. So it's not only front end of a back-to-back, it's against the Boston Celtics tomorrow. So like, obviously I wouldn't say you're like weighing your options, but in the back of Embiid's mind, he's like, well, if I'm banged up tonight, I'd rather be healthy playing Boston.
And then it's all full go Paul Reed once that happens. So.
Yeah. So, Maxey would obviously be the easiest plug and play if Embiid's out. I think Kyrie is probably the most overlooked of the tier, despite – and I think one that has to do with how clunky it looked last year, and I don't know if people realize how good Dallas has been this year. Second-rated offense in basketball thus far.
Just got to hear now, Hayward and Miller both ruled out tonight, as we expected.
Wow. That is going to be a brutal rotation for Charlotte.
So I think JT Thor might start now, right?
Yeah. Oof. Maladon. It's probably Maladon and Thor is probably your.
I said this in the Discord today. Super small sample size. It's only 20 minutes without Miller and Hayward on the floor. LaMelo Ball had a 36% usage rate, and PJ Washington had a 30% usage rate. Okay, going up against Miami, it's not like it's a great spot here. I wonder if Miami just scratches somebody now, right? Like they're like, you know what? Charlotte's not playing anybody tonight. Bam, go enjoy the night off.
Nah, not with the way Bam's cooking.
Yeah.
It would be Jim. If anyone, it's Jimmy, right? Like Bam's
playing.
Hasn't
he missed too many games by now for that to happen?
Nah, he doesn't care. The Heat don't care. They don't. Bam's like, if the people who didn't exist playing well, like if Jokic, like Bam would probably be like right now, season ended, he's like top 10 in the MVP discussion. He's been so good.
I tweeted out today that I think Anthony Edwards dark horse MVP.
Yes.
Plus 2,500. Right up in the playbook as well. Listen, if Minnesota right now, they come into a top 2 seed in the West,
the
way Anthony Edwards is playing, you're getting great odds on Anthony Edwards MVP here, for sure. Got a lot of questions about, what happens if Embiid is out here. Jacob talking Maxey 10-1. Ryan in the chat saying Maxey if Embiid is out for sure. Murray if Embiid is in. Great pivots either way. And then Marion's asking us, what do we think about Tobias Harris? We'll talk about power forward here in a little bit, but last on the preview show, we were kind of talking up Toby, a guy that we kind of consider to be a boring cash game play the last few years, actually giving us a little bit of a ceiling. And if there is no JoJo tonight, then yeah, everybody's going to get a boost in that lineup. It's not only no Joel Embiid, Kelly Oubre not being in that lineup, that's a shooter. Kelly Oubre was a shooter. You take that off the floor, those shots have to go somewhere else, and they're not really replacing that, with another big offensive player like Robert Covington, who is expected to start and expected to be like the highest rostered player on the slate. I had a mention in our Discord about KJ Martin. I wish it would be KJ Martin. I would love to play KJ Martin tonight if that was the case. But yes, and hopefully we'll get that news soon on that Philly game. Maybe while we're live here today, and we can really dive in and break it down for everybody. But as we've seen, you can still play Maxey with Joel Embiid active in this same spot. He went for 50 actual. Yep. So it doesn't need JoJo out to be Tyrese, but the chalk is all going to go Maxey's way there once he gets ruled out. And that's Murray's still in a great spot. Murray's been giving us consistent 40 fantasy point efforts here. First game without Trey, usage rate's great, so don't mind going there. When we roll our way down into the mid tier, if LeBron James is get ruled out, I do like D'Angelo Russell at $7,500. I think he's priced up a little bit too much, maybe. If LBJ's in, he's hitting value, but I don't know if his ceiling can exceed the value at $7,500 there against this spot against Memphis. Mays is someone we talked about where if you kind of just blocked out the name but looked at the numbers, you'd be like, yeah, doubles in 2 straight, 41 and 39. Let's roll at 67. So if you can get past that, it's also a great pace spot for Portland. Utah, 10th in pace, Portland 25th. So a big pace up play here for Mays. And one of the reasons I wrote up Portland in the playbook today, they're all playing minutes because there's just no depth. He's played 37 and 33. Shaden Sharp's playing over 40. Jeremy Grant's playing over 40. Ayton's playing 35, 36 minutes. So if they're not coming off the floor, then the value is certainly there for a guy under 7K.
Yeah, and I said it to you on the show. Even if LeBron's out, I would rather play Skylar Mays than D'Angelo Russell. I like the discount for, the better spot, but also just maybe per dollar, the same player for 800 cheaper. At least for recent production.
JT Thor officially in the starting lineup for Charlotte today. Joel Embiid remains a game time decision. Thanks. But JT Thor in the starting lineup. Just quickly get your thoughts there of the player. Power forward only, but we know he's going to be playing some wing here tonight. Last couple of games here, 3 straight over 20 minutes. Not great in that blowout, but 16, 13. What do we think of JT Thor tonight? Could see 30 minutes off the bench or starting rather for Charlotte here.
I wish JT Thor wasn't 4.2K for no reason, I think, whatsoever. Maybe that's just like DraftKings again being kind of hip to the news, being present to the news. Robert Covington officially in the starting lineup. There it is.
Which again we expected. Covington's 3.9 too, right?
3.4.
Okay, it's 3.4. Okay,
so
that's not bad.
I think that's where you have to. That's going to be the versus, right? It's JT Thor for 4.2.
Yeah,
but it's Robert Covington in a better spot at 34 with Nick Nurse as his head coach.
We still need one more starter to come out. Plus, we need to know who's starting for San Antonio. Malachi Branham. I know in our Discord we were talking Dougie McBuckets and maybe my guy Graham maybe finding some playing time for San Antonio here tonight. So
wow, that you would feel right at home if Devontae Graham was announced as starter, huh?
Dude, if he started, I would lock him in at 3K. And listen, you and I talk a lot about this, right? The recent value pivots have not really worked for anybody. No. There's been time. The Jordan Hawkins game was nice. We've played some Sasser, but Bagley has consistently let us down. Keon Ellis a couple nights ago when he was a late start let everybody down in that Kings game there. What else? What else was there recently last night?
Ayo Dosunmu.
Ayo was a big letdown.
Otto Porter.
Porter was a big letdown. So these aren't exactly. Sean gets it. It is never a Robert Covington track night. It was in 2009, but it's not, it's not his first go around with the Philadelphia 76ers. Sure. Rocco Chalk could get behind it. Not necessarily anymore. So just be wary. These are landmines. We talk good chalk, bad chalk all the time. I'd rather eat the chalk of a DeJounte Murray spend up or something like that than fish around and hope that tonight's the night, Brandon goes 5 for 5 from the floor or something. But people are going to go there once these lineups are announced. So figured out your lineup builds. I was building a lot of fair and balanced lineups today. I didn't find myself getting to Jokic or getting to these top guards today. So we'll see. We'll see what continues to open up for us here as we work our way through. Any other point guards for you? We talked Mays. Anybody else down here under 6K?
I mean, Chris Paul 61 would probably be the one Warrior I'd be like okay getting to. Easy slot into the starting rotation. Chris Paul's been coming off the bench. Hasn't been great. Hasn't been bad. Obviously, we saw the first 2 games of the year what it looked like with Chris Paul starting. Obviously, he had Steph Curry to pass the ball to and no Draymond Green. But he is an orchestrator. He is a double threat still at despite approaching 40. 61's fine for Chris Paul. But then for me, it's like nothing of much priority. I would say the Keontae George thing is okay. If he makes a couple more shots, there's like 30 fantasy point appeal to him because he is a good passer. He is starting in a lineup with, Jordan Clarkson, who's a bucket, Larry Markkinen, who's an absolute bucket, and John Collins, who's been really good for them. So like he does have Agbaji can space the floor. So he does have like consistent assist appeal, just needs to make shots. But also, we don't know who the 5th starter for Charlotte's going to be. If it's Theo Maledon, 4,400, took 12 shots in 25 minutes. I kind of like that. Like, I'd be more willing to go to Maledon at 44 than JT Thor at 42. Like, if I'm talking about Charlotte value.
Yeah, I saw someone tweet out that they think it could be Bryce McGowan's here.
Could also be Bryce McGowan
playing double-digit minutes. So, could definitely see him slide in there and start at shooting guard tonight. Again, I don't know how to feel about that. But could see him, and they keep Maledon as sort of that backup point guard for them this evening. But again, we will get that starting lineup before roster's locked tonight. So it's against Miami too. It's not like it's a great spot for them. I think Lowry on FanDuel's in play again. He's 54 over there, I think, or 56 over there. A little bit better a price than on DraftKings with no hero. But that's probably it for me at the point guard position. Shooting guard, the line flipped big time. I was in on Anthony Edwards. I still like Anthony Edwards tonight because, again, even in blowouts, like they won by 21 here, still played 33 minutes in that game. Gave you 51 fantasy points. He's blowing teams out because it's like him. They won by 30 against Utah. He played 36 minutes, had 50 fantasy points. So I still think Anthony Edwards is in play here tonight.
I am perfectly fine getting to Edwards in tournaments. It's just like the game again. Like even suggesting Chris Paul, I was a little like hesitant. I'm not saying Golden State's going to get blown out at home, but
they were favorites in this game before.
I know. I know, but they have not had a 20-point scorer. What if that trend
continues? Scoring 45 every game. So
I mean, I'm not saying Curry hasn't been great, but he's also averaged this for like the last 10 years.
I know.
And he's had people like playing alongside of him that have scored the basketball like complimentary, and that's why the Warriors.
I do think it's odd that Curry was that big of a favorite over Minnesota here. Like they're home, yes, but like Curry was worth 6 points. That's a lot. That is a crazy swing. You and I were talking about this the other day with De'Aaron Fox. Like, wouldn't the line be different? It's only moved 1 with De'Aaron Fox. It's like, maybe like quarterbacks only move lines 4 points in the NFL. Then Steph Curry gets ruled out 6. A 6-point swing for a home team. Seems crazy, but
it just shows. But that just shows you how bad everyone else has been. So, like, if Minnesota is as good as they've been tonight, how does Golden State keep this game close? Like, I'm not like this is a championship bred team, but like they don't have 20-point scorers when every team in the NBA has like 3.
I guess we have to keep in mind we have a Wiggins revenge game coming here too.
Wiggins. I don't know if you saw the FanDuel price, $4,400.
Yeah. No. They don't do anything with Wiggins here. Should I take Anthony Edwards or LeBron James? My lineup, C-Dog wants to know. Well, we don't know LeBron James' status yet. They're both late games though, so you can plug in LeBron and then swap to Anthony Edwards if you want. I think both of that's fine.
Yep.
Say LeBron's in. Do you like LeBron versus Memphis or Anthony Edwards versus Golden State?
LeBron.
LeBron. All right, well, there you go. So keep LeBron in your lineup. If he gets ruled out, play Anthony Edwards. I think they're both fine. Desmond Bain, I like Desmond Bain more on FanDuel tonight. I think just for the positional eligibility where he has shooting guard, small forward. I don't find myself getting to him on DraftKings tonight at 9K.
We know he has a ceiling, but again, I feel like the people right below him are just
right. You can play players. Irving and DeJounte Murray together.
Yeah. Brandon Ingram in that same game Irving's in a 240 total. Like I think they're all better per dollar plays than Bain.
Shaden Sharp's here at $7,900 playing 45 minutes a night.
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. You don't see this. You just don't see that. Like not in today's NBA.
Coach, so you don't expect it.
If Nick Nurse was his coach, would he play all 48?
He'd still be playing from last game right now. They just have him out there.
Just still running, just still on the floor.
Just his running tally would be like 90 minutes at the moment. Is Chris Paul a good play? He's a decent value tonight.
Yeah, it's a good price, but it's a terrible matchup. If that game stays competitive, I'm sure Chris Paul has a stamp on the game.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I said, the double-double's in play, but to your point, someone else has to score tonight. So
someone has to. I mean, if they don't, it's...
Yeah. On DraftKings tonight, I'm playing Jordan Clarkson. Actually, I'm playing Jordan Clarkson everywhere. He's the cover of the playbook tonight. But if you're looking at Klay Thompson, you play him on FanDuel tonight. It's $5,400. At the same price as Jordan Clarkson tonight, I'm playing Jordan Clarkson against Portland. I get the pace down spot here for Utah, but since they made this lineup switch, you and I have been saying, look at who's on the floor now. They took a guy in Talen Horton-Tucker who had us a 20-shot game on his box score this year out of the starting lineup. Walker Kessler's out of the starting lineup, and they gave them Agbaji and Keontae George. Agbaji took 8 shots last game. Keontae George took like 8 or 10 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Clarkson's taken 30, 32, 42 shots the last 2 games here. I mean, give me all the Jordan Clarkson you can handle tonight at $6,500. He's the cover of the playbook. He's my favorite play of this.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the price too. He has a floor, obviously. He can shoot himself, and he can crush lineups really fast.
Oh, like the 3 for 14 here against Chicago?
Like the 3 for 14, sure. And the game prior, the 5 for 14. But then you get the games. Those are also like...
he's going to take too many shots now.
Agreed. I agree. And also you look at it and you can tell the difference in games for Jordan Clarkson. Those last 2 games, 14 of 14 from the line. The 2 games prior where he has floor performances, 0 free throws. He's like DeAndre Ayton every game this year, not just in 2 games. DeAndre Ayton has 3 free throws this year. I'd
even take into account the home numbers though. Averaging 36 fantasy points at home. He's coming off of 4 straight road games. So this is the first home game they've had in half a month here. So also maybe take that into a little bit of an account as well.
Yep.
So again, Clarkson for me was a lock and load play all day. I said it in the Discord. Like first thing this morning was like, all I know is I'm playing Jordan Clarkson today. Like before any news came out, I was just like, I'm playing Jordan Clarkson. That's the one thing that I know to be true. Devin Vassell could just play out of necessity here. We talked about the lack of depth potentially on this team. We think Thunder probably roll them. Vegas thinks Thunder rolls the Spurs here, but if they don't have the depth on this team due to having to put some guys in the starting lineup, we know Vassell can play point guard. He's going to take on more of an offensive role with no Keldon Johnson here tonight. Another guy that probably won't have any trouble reaching value if they play him to 35 minutes, no matter who's on the floor.
I'm skeptical that happens, but I think because I do think they, if you look at the roster, I was like, because I was also, when I saw like all the comments about Doug McDermott and Chetty in our chat, I was like, do we have any other?
We know that we played that game theory before. We played Chetty 19 minutes. So
I think that they have enough guys that they could go to. I don't think if this game blows out that he's on the floor. They have Malachi Branham. They have Blake Wesley. They called up City Sissoko.
Sure.
So like they have stumbled. That was a tough.
I was gonna say I couldn't. Can you spell that for me? Can you?
That was a tough. Can't use that in a sentence either. So don't think if this game gets out of hand, 10.5-point spread, that he does play. I will say if it does stay close, he's too cheap, and he's going to be obviously a primary reason, right? Because he's their highest paid player. He's got like $180 million in the offseason, and that's something that not going to be out of the ordinary for like young players that are getting extended, but
he's going to have a ceiling shot game.
Yes,
probably.
he will. It just depends if it's
in 3 quarters,
in 3 quarters, or if it's a 4-quarter game. So like the price is really good if the game can stay competitive.
Right. I agree with you. Moving our way down here, Jordan Hawkins is $5,800. Any interest in the price?
I think him and Dyson Daniels both deserve a look if there's no Herb.
Okay.
I mean, Hawkins obviously has a ceiling. We've seen that. And Daniels has started back-to-back games. Dude, he was smashing in that Dallas game. He played 3 quarters. It was just one of those games. And they're running it back again. And this time New Orleans is home. Well, I guess last time New Orleans was home too. But maybe the Zion comments, get something lit. I don't think this team is that bad that they're going to get torched again. But, that remains to be seen. So I think both of them, if Herb Jones is out, deserve some type of look.
Okay. Got a lot of love here for Bogdan.
Yeah.
Very well in the starting lineup here tonight, $4,900. Not cheap on FanDuel though. They were on to Bogdan coming off the bench the way he's been playing. Mid 5Ks for Bogdan, but I still think you got to go ahead and give him a look in your lineup there as well. Alec Burks came back, did Alec Burks thing, 26 fantasy points in 21 minutes off the bench for the Detroit there. Anybody else down here? We talked Branham at 39. Moody maybe at 36. Gets more minutes here tonight.
I mean, yeah, you can game theory on. It's just a 10-game slate. That would be my only hesitation to go to someone like Mazis, or what did Charles call him? Masis Madi?
Yeah, something like that.
Musis Madi. That was one of the all-time great name
botches.
Because he did like 6 different names before he finally arrived at Moses Moody.
Big Bucket starts. Would you give him a look?
Yeah, it's like I get it. I would rather I know this is gonna sound bad. I'd probably just rather play Robert Covington chalk than play like someone like McDermott, who I don't have much confidence in playing in a blowout.
You and I had this conversation with Sam Hauser earlier. It's like if you can just hit a 3, you'll stay in the league for 20 years. That guy.
He is probably he definitely has a chance. Only person I would mention, John, and it's something that I'm workshopping live here on air, would be possibly a little DeAnthony Melton love if there was no Embiid. We know DeAnthony Melton is kind of a guy who can stuff a box score. He's been bad, undoubtedly been bad. But he has some big games randomly throughout his career, and I could see a scenario where maybe they do not play Robert Covington extended run because he's Robert Covington, and they go to that more small Tobias at the 4 lineup like they've done in years past. Against Indiana, who runs 6'6" Aaron Nesmith at power forward for 25 minutes a night, and 6'8" Obi Toppin at power forward for who stands in the perimeter and stuff. So I could see a ceiling minutes game for DeAnthony Melton tonight, especially if there's no Embiid. They'd be down 4 key rotation pieces. They'd be down, or 3, Embiid, Oubre, and Batum, all who play 30-plus minutes for them. So I could see a ceiling minutes game for DeAnthony Melton. So I don't dislike the idea of getting to him. And I'm probably not doing it unless Embiid's ruled out. But I can see a scenario where they just need him to be on the floor more regardless because of who's in and who's out. So
Melton over on FanDuel tonight after Bauer's comment there. Only $5,200 here. He says he's showing up 30% projected rostered in our draft percentage forecaster over there. 20 more fantasy points now, and for the last 5, I gave you a 30 fantasy point game against Portland. FanDuel is definitely where you want Melton because of the blocks and steal upside for him. So I don't mind that. Shooting guard, point guard eligible as well over there. There's just a lot of good shooting guards on tonight's slate. So now, obviously, on FanDuel, you're fortunate that some of those shooting guards also have small forward eligibility. So you can kind of play with that. DraftKings, you don't really get a lot of that over there. You do get Edwards, though, at small forward eligibility here. Small forward, you have LeBron James, you have Anthony Edwards, Lauri Markkanen at $8,700. I think is definitely in play tonight, going up against Portland. We've talked Shannon Sharp already. Do you like a Butler, George, anybody in that other range we haven't discussed?
Pass.
I agree with you. Franz at 73, Osor Thompson 71, Michael Porter Jr. 67.
Yeah, I think this tier is a little more interesting. Thompson just needs to make a couple shots, and there's like a 50 could have like a 50-point ceiling at that point if we get made shots.
Yeah,
I don't love, John, that people are, like, they're getting healthier other than Jalen Duren, and like Oscar Thompson's minutes go from 37, 38 to 32 in each of the last 2 games in competitive games. Like there's no reason for that when he's constantly your like most energetic player, best defender overall. Definitely
it is a little bit better than what it was, because he was getting, when that would happen to be previously, he was playing 26, 29.
Sure.
Now he's playing 32.
Sure.
Definitely a FanDuel play. Priced up a little bit more in FanDuel is 74, but you talk about hitting a few more shots of those defensive stats. Now you're talking an actual 50-point game over on FanDuel with the way those numbers are going. So I definitely like the Thompson. And of course, we've been in on Michael Porter Jr. now for, since he got drafted, but this year for basically since our guy Sean said, you know what, I'm following up Michael Porter Jr. Like, I'm going to go back to the well against Dallas, had that low rostered game, went off, and he's basically turned a corner since. 42, 45, 38, 35, 41, 4 20-plus fantasy point games. No Jamal Murray. Obviously, that's coinciding with a lot of the uptick in production here. Dude's hitting all of his shots. He's rebounding, giving you blocks and steals. Another guy like Jordan Clarkson, it feels like, where he's giving you 40, and they're just like, same price. No big deal. We'll just leave him.
I don't get it. I mean, look, 1.08 fantasy points per minute is really solid, and he gets to play with Nikola Jokic. At the end of the day, he is a sniper that gets to play with arguably the best passer in the NBA. So the guy who draws the most attention in the NBA. So, yeah, I mean, Michael Porter, regardless of what you think of some of these Clipper perimeter defenders, he's going to get open looks, because even those guys are going to collapse on Jokic and double Jokic, and there's going to be open looks for Michael Porter. So as long as he's 6,700. Also, I think we mentioned on the show, like the wrinkle of you can play him at either forward spot now. You're not just capped on just small forward. Like, he's been small forward for 3 straight years. Suddenly they're like, actually, you know what? Maybe he's playing a little bit of both with Jamal Murray out. So I like that little added wrinkle as well.
Agreed. Toby's here as well at 64. You can play him either way, but we are definitely in on Toby Harris tonight. Even if Joel Embiid plays, I mean, he's just been really good no matter what. Great price point for him here. Any interest in Lonnie Walker at $5,800?
Probably not. I think that's a little. The price is a little too high for me, especially with like how quickly they ramped Cam J up and how quickly they ramped Claxton up. Like, there's extra minutes to be had when those guys, because you're seeing like people that Lonnie Walker directly competes with, for like Royce O'Neal and Finney Smith, like playing the center. And now with Claxton there and Cam Johnson playing power forward, he's just losing out minutes. So I'll probably pass on Lonnie Walker tonight.
Okay. You mentioned Royce O'Neal. He is $5,100. Another 30 minutes for him tonight, coming through some decent production. Boring player, I know.
Boring.
Wiggins, 5K. Any interest?
What you keep asking me, what's your assessment of Golden State? Oh, as like without Curry, like what do you make of, not like what, like 2023 version of Golden State players that you would want to roster are who? Like, is Wiggins in that? Dude, he doesn't play minutes. Like, none of these guys like play minutes.
I feel like they have to play some minutes now, though.
Sure. I mean, you would think, and then you're going to
see Curry was the only one playing a boatload of minutes. Those minutes, they're not just going to give them all to
Corey Joseph.
Yeah, right? Like they're not all going to Gary Payton tonight, like so.
Brandon Podziemski, dude, it's just. What is your assessment of Golden State?
I think somebody tonight is going to have a good game.
Okay. Dario Saric.
Maybe. Yeah. I think somebody tonight's going to have a good game. I know our guy Sean took the over Klay Thompson points prop tonight as a 20.5. Could definitely be him for sure with all the shot volume there. Let's see. We talked Atlanta with Bogdan. Bay's pretty cheap down here, $4,300. Just if Bogdan's in the starting lineup, Bay's going to get some extra minutes here.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout because
he bet the over 30 points. There it is.
Over 30.
Over 30 and a half.
Well, maybe that's the over 30 minutes. I would take the under on that one. Yeah, I mean, listen, we know Klay has one of the craziest point ceilings when he is like in that.
Wasn't it 9 threes in a quarter or something like that?
Yeah, 40. Crazy? Yeah, for like 43 points in like the third or whatever it was, when he scored. He took 6 dribbles in that game or 4 dribbles in that game. Like he has the craziest ceiling when he's going. It's just we just gotta see it, right? I like the Saddiq Bey shout because him, Hunter, Johnson, Bogdanovic have like been in this like rotation of like 24 to, or I guess 22, shout out Jalen Johnson, 22 to like 32 minutes, right? And now we have to throw Wesley Matthews in.
I don't know why he got those 7 minutes, but he took them away from Jalen Johnson the other day. Annoyed me.
They apparently
imagine if he starts tonight at shooting guard, Wesley Matthews.
I said that in Discord today. I was like, we think it's Bogdan, it's going to be Wesley Matthews.
Or it's going to be AJ Griffin.
AJ Griffin, yeah. First round pick that's not going to be on the team in like 2 years. I think like everyone just benefits because as long as they don't troll us and start Patty Mills or something at point guard, right? Like Kobe Buffkin is not there. So like they don't have like probably the traditional point guard on the roster that they could start. As long as they just do what we think and DeJounte starts at point guard, there's a lot of minutes opening up for everyone. I think Saddiq Bey is actually a really nice play. When you look at Saddiq Bey without Trae Young this year, it's a small sample. I want to pull it up again. I was looking at it earlier. 1.03 fantasy points per minute for Saddiq Bey without Trae Young this year. That's a really good and I'm breaking everything. That's not confirmed that Wesley Matthews if okay. Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's a fair. Or Sean, look at it like this. You're not playing either. Play more because you're going to be going up against the field who are playing Wesley Matthews.
Yeah, well, you just don't play those two and you just hope that they both miss, right?
Yeah, well, hope is probably going to happen. 1.03 fantasy points per minute for Saddiq Bey without Trae Young is greater than Bogdanovic, Onyeka Ngakoue, DeAndre Hunter, all that are being significantly higher rostered tonight than Saddiq Bey. So just some food for thought. That's it. Bogdan has a higher sample of minutes. Ngakoue has a similar minute sample, and Hunter has a greater minute sample. So I think Saddiq Bey is a great shout, very contrarian compared to what everyone else in Atlanta is going to be. It's a good one, John. Tip of the old ball cap to you.
Thanks. Do we chase the Agbaji game?
No. Okay. I know I mentioned it last night, and you shot me down. I'm going to do the same thing to you that you did to me. And
new audience. You have to just kind of rehash.
Right. Rehashing the combo, by the way. You see what Faisal's talking about? He listened to the show. He's playing the Jokic tree, the Denver tree. That Jokic, the big safe tree, and his branches of Gordon and Porter. I love that. Shout out to you, Faisal, for always supporting. That's the second shout for Faisal today. You know,
he gave us a follow on Twitter the other day or X the other day.
True.
In our chat all the time. Love it. All right. Anybody else here? Small forward. Okay. Power forward. Wemby. Huge usage.
Human. Oh, not human? Oh, okay. Well, you used it right.
Yes. He's also up against Chet tonight, which is going to be a fun matchup to watch a little bit.
Yeah.
He is definitely more physically imposing than Chet Holmgren is.
Yes.
But they're both sticks. So, but but he's got a 36% usage rate without Keldon on the floor and a 1.35 or something like that fantasy point per minute. So, yeah.
Dude, if it stays close, it's
because he has 45 and 15 or something.
He has the Phoenix. He has the Phoenix game all over again. He has that crazy Phoenix game where he just poor Eric Gordon. It's that. But that game also those Phoenix games also had Keldon Johnson and they also had Trey Jones in them. So
they didn't have Devin Vassell for a half.
That's true. They did not have Devin Vassell for a half. That's correct. That is correct.
So close. Yeah, they're trying Beasley, but I don't care about it.
I care.
The players
care. Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. Some of them care. You know who cares? Every European player cares because they're familiar with this. And Adam Silver actually talked about this. They took this from like EuroLeague soccer in-season tournaments. Like they stole the idea from EuroLeague soccer, and EuroLeague basketball does this all the time. So
sure. What I heard a good idea was that this should make the winner of the in-season tournament get a guaranteed playoff berth.
I do think that is a good incentive
because it could incentivize a bad team getting hot and like all of a sudden Memphis makes the in-season makes the playoffs.
Washington
makes the playoffs because they won their in-season tournament games. So
now I guess the question is, do you make them? You still make them like they're like the 10
they're in the
seed.
play-in game.
They're the 10 seed, right?
Yeah. You guaranteed play-in game if you win the in-season tournament.
Unless
if you win the in-season tournament and then you win the conference.
Yes, agreed.
Something different, but it waterfalls down from there, So Zion doesn't care about the system in New Orleans, so
He's trying, John.
Trying to figure it out.
He's trying to buy in, okay?
Yeah. Paolo's here at 8K. He's been 8K for a little bit. I'm on that. I'm on the price against Brooklyn there. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Grant, another guy who's going to play 40 minutes.
Sure is.
Just going to play 40 minutes, so I'm going to have some interest. Even if the price tag hasn't always paid itself off. What do we do with PJ Washington? 30% usage rate without Hayward and Miller on the floor.
This price is tough.
I know, but
it's tough.
And he hasn't really paid any of his price tags off this year except for one.
The game that you play.
The game that I touted him, because I'm a genius. But we had a Miami matchup here. And it's only a 20-minute sample size for the 30% usage rate. So it's not, but like who's shooting? Thor? Is JT Thor shooting? Is Bryce McGowan shooting on this team? Who's taking the shots?
LaMelo, all of them, everyone.
Yeah. So I feel like we could have a ceiling shot game from PJ Washington here.
You might be right. Like you're probably right in all likelihood.
Where does Gordon Hayward's 7 rebounds go?
I just like 6,900 for PJ Washington is just a very uncomfortable feeling. I get it because it's not like this is a price where everyone's in and he's 69. Well, it was. I guess technically it was 6,900 before anyone was ruled out, but and I know Rozier's out there too. Like there's 3 of their starters.
Shots that are now there. Gordon Hayward was very good this year. He's averaging 20 points a game.
He's been very good. I would rather probably just play Aaron Gordon for 100 cheaper still, right?
Sean, you don't have to. He's only $6,900.
Nice. I don't think you can sell me on PJ here. I'm with Sean. I don't think I could do it.
Right.
I can't do it.
All right. Well, Aaron Gordon, we know we're in anyways. We got the Jokic tree. Jalen Johnson, $6,200. If he doesn't get benched again.
It's tough. Yeah,
probably fine. We talked Toby already down here. Isaiah Stewart, would you have any interest in Sir Isaiah?
Yeah, very solid play. He's just a workman-like player. He's going to do the dirty work. He can stretch the floor. And when they inevitably play Marvin Bagley his 24 minutes and nothing past that, you get Stewart at the 5 closing games. Going to play 30 minutes. So, yeah, I think Isaiah Stewart's a fine play. I don't think he's priority, but I think he's a last piece in. I think there's a better play in the 5K range. Oh, he's right there. Yeah,
there he is. I took the over 2.5 3-pointers today for Cameron Johnson. He shot over 40% in his couple of years with Phoenix.
Yep.
2 of 11 seems unlikely to repeat itself. But hopefully he takes that many 3-pointers again, because that should be pretty easy for him to hit at least 3 in this spot against Orlando if that's the case.
He is a very quality shooter that can really, really like shut a game down just by like 7 threes later. You're like, holy smokes. Yeah. Cameron Johnson just literally blew the doors off their opponent. Orlando's a really good defensive team. And when we were talking about it last night, I did not expect Cameron Johnson to be this highly rostered. I get it because he's 5,400.
That's what it is, yeah.
The minutes. The first thing you and I talked about last night was like, holy smokes. Like, talk about a guy who's been injury prone pretty much his whole career, going from 25 minutes to 35 in a matter of 2 days. I mean, he's going to play a minute ceiling. There's no Cameron Thomas. There's no Ben Simmons. They're like a very beat up team right now. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to get to Cameron Johnson. He's a very safe cash game play. I think he's got a ceiling when his shots fall. 16 shots in 35 minutes is an excellent duo for a guy who's priced at $5,400 in any setting. Like, that's if you guarantee me tonight Cameron Johnson played 35 minutes again and took 16 shots, I would be north of the field by like 3x the ownership that he's getting probably.
Okay. Chasing Duncan Robinson.
Chasing Duncan Robinson seems super annoying on a court. I would not like to do that. In terms of DFS, you can. He's playing well. There's a ceiling, obviously.
Is there a difference on this slate? Is there a difference between Duncan Robinson and Cameron Johnson?
I would say Cameron Johnson probably has a safer shot floor because of who's out for Orlando. When you look at Miami, like just the fact that they're getting Lowry back, they have Bam playing out of his freaking mind. They have Butler. And then if Haywood Highsmith is actually good and Jaquez is good, like there's always the chance that Duncan Robinson's not on the floor to close.
Sure.
Where like Cam Johnson's closing in the closing lineup for sure. So I would say it is a good point because I get what you're saying. Like it's a great mindset for a GPP. Like, is there a difference because I could just play Duncan Robinson at 0 ownership at the same price with a seal, like just flash day ceiling compared to Cam Johnson, who is one of the highest rostered plays in the slate. So
if Duncan Robinson hits his threes and Cam Johnson goes 3 for 11 again, you're winning, right? So
yeah, I mean it's the perfect way to describe how to win in GPPs. Whether or not the process actually works and Cam Johnson goes 9 for 12 from 3 and Duncan Robinson plays like 17 minutes and because he's 0 for 9, either way, whatever the process, like the end result, the process is spot on, John.
How do we get to Hachimura here tonight? 2 big games, a decent little game, 20 minutes against Phoenix, wedged in between there. Obviously there was this the no LeBron game, one of those two? So
what, no Davis, the no Davis game.
Yeah, no Davis
in
game.
Houston. The Houston game was the no Davis game, and then the no LeBron game was Portland.
Yeah. He's
taking Christian Wood minutes too. Christian Wood's minutes are back in the teens the last 3 nights or last 3 games. So, I think if LeBron plays, it's probably low 20s minutes, but he's been good. So I guess you can get there. When we were talking last night, it was when LeBron was more
LeBron wasn't going to play.
He was more questionable than he was today, sure.
Agreed. Any of these other guys down here, some of our usual suspects we've gone to, like Nas Reed. We talked DeAndre Hunter a little bit. Derek Jones is 45. Bay, we've talked already. Thor. John Isaac is 41. Any interest in these guys down here?
I mean, mild interest in like Saric. I think there's like obviously there's shot volume. Dario Saric has never seen a shot he doesn't like, so he probably loves that Steph Curry's not on the floor.
27 minutes in that game against Minnesota.
Well, it's just a thing again. Like plays 27 minutes because they're limiting Draymond on a back-to-back, and then Draymond's in foul trouble and he's getting yapped. Like, so anytime Draymond's in trouble, it's like Saric to the rescue. So that's obviously potential. Derek Jones, if he knocks down his shots, shooting 36% from 3 is pretty good. He's going to have a lot of 3 opportunities because he plays with Luka and Kyrie. Like, he just has to sit on the wing and be ready to catch and shoot because those 2 are creating. Are you playing Robert Covington 3,400 in the starting lineup?
I'll have to see what my builds need, I guess. Probably not, but you talk about it all the time. Like, Nick Nurse will play his starters. So, I mean, what did they give Batum the other day? I guess that's probably
30 plus minutes. He played like 33 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good measure for what we probably have. 33. It's probably what we get out of Covington then tonight, right?
There's a chance. I mean, look what Nick Batum did in that game. He knocked down 3 threes. He had 7 rebounds, 3 blocks, and a steal. Is that not a Robert Covington line if you've ever seen one? Like, 5 shots? Now, that's the problem. Again, the 5 shots is the problem. Because if Robert Covington goes 1 for 5 and doesn't have 3 steals and blocks, then you're dead. I mean, you're not dead.
He's a better shooter than Robert Covington is.
Yes. So there's obviously the field is getting to Robert Covington. He's been slightly worse than a fantasy point per minute guy on the year. He hasn't been a good fantasy point per minute guy probably since he got the bag from Philadelphia years ago. But he's starting 3,400. I just think it's worth. That's why it's just worth the conversation. Obviously, we don't need to worry about it if Embiid's out. We can just play Paul Reed
and Anderson and Robinson Earl.
He got that run mainly because of the blowout.
Okay.
I know that game only ended 12. It was like a 40-point game in the 3rd quarter. So, and we don't know the status of Herb Jones. If Herb Jones plays, Robinson Earl probably doesn't play a single second.
Agreed. All right, let's go to center. We'll build a lineup afterwards. Joker's here. I said on the show that I would rank them Joker, Davis, Embiid. I still sort of feel that way. I don't think LeBron playing changes me off of the Davis call. Just from the value you're getting, you're saving $1,400 and he's still giving you 60 to 70 fantasy points. So I'd rather take those savings over Embiid. But Joker, you're getting the 80 potential here. So I still got a Jokic, Davis, Embiid for me.
I think if you're playing Jokic, you're probably more inclined to play someone like Robert Covington. Just looking at the lineup, like
there's been a lot more value opening up though. You probably end up getting Spurs value, probably Charlotte value,
possibly. No, I mean the Embiid news is obviously the slate breaking part of this whole
Reed,
equation.
Yeah, exactly. What's Reed's price? Where's Reed at? Reed is 3,500. Yeah. So
Paul Freed because he is literally free.
Agreed. Are you in on Bam?
It's hard not to be like. I know he's 9K and whatnot, but like, dude, he has been amazing everywhere. Offense, defense, the offense flowing through him. Like that game, Butler was in 24, 11, 6, and 3 steals.
Yeah. This is feeling like when Anthony Davis was giving us all those 60s and he's like 95, 96. I'm like, oh, he's too cheap. Well, Bam's 9K now giving us that stuff. So it's kind of like ride the wave on him,
And you know what Bam's ownership is going to be, John? Probably the same ownership that you and I have tonight. Like nobody's going to play because we just talked about 3 of the best players in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Jokic, Embiid, and Davis, like right above him. And then Wemby, and then the mid-tier, there's a couple center options that are getting a lot of ownership. So you want to be different. Bam is definitely away.
Agreed. Moving down into this mid-tier range here, guys that I kind of initially found myself gravitating towards. Zach Collins is 64, Nick Claxton 62.
Yes, on both. Collins has shown a really high ceiling this year. He's also shown a pretty safe floor. Just obviously concerned with the blowout. If you think that game is going to blow out, then you aren't going to get to a lot of Collins. You're just going to pivot to Claxton, who another guy who missed almost 3 weeks of action and then immediately plugged into 28 minutes. Jock Vaughn wasted no time. Said, just Nick, get out there. Almost 30 minutes. I think there's a really repeatable ceiling for rebounds for Claxton. Orlando, bottom 10 offensive team in basketball. They miss a lot of shots. So I think there's another ceiling for Nick Claxton on the glass. I think we're going to see 30 minutes out of Nick Claxton. They also probably need him offensively a little more than normal too, just like given who's in, who's out type of thing. So I think Nick Claxton's my favorite center play of the slate.
Okay.
Before we obviously before knowing the Paul Reed status. Because if Paul Reed's the easiest plug and play of the slate if Embiid's ruled out.
Yeah.
Like that's first person into everyone's lineup.
I would agree with you. On DraftKings, I'm fine getting to Okonkwo down here as well. He's like $4,500. They have him at like 56 or something on FanDuel. Like I'm not going to pay that. Stewart's actually cheaper than Okonkwo on FanDuel, so I'd play Stewart over that every day just because of the minutes here. But again, a guy went over 3 and still gave you 17 fantasy points. So that kind of shows you the ceiling because of the defensive numbers we're getting and the rebounding. So I don't mind going there at 45. And then Jalen Smith again, if you just want to turn him in dart, another guy that comes on the floor and just fantasy point per minute beast here.
I think it's funny. All 3 guys at 4,500 here. I'll even throw Daron because I don't know if you saw that. Randomly, just like, hey, like you're now operating as the backup center again.
Yeah.
And like Claxton comes back, Daron 19 minutes. Is that Embiid news? I haven't looked.
Black, Suggs, Wagner, Banchero, Goga.
Okay. All 3 of these 4,500 plays are all GPP darts, right? All 3 of them all have a crazy ceiling.
If we didn't talk Black, shooting guard, small forward. I mean, low floor.
Low floor. Yeah.
20 minutes. All right. Well, let's obviously we can build a lineup now, but it'll change if Paul Reed ends up starting tonight. So, how do we want to kick things off here, knowing the information that we have?
What are you feeling? I mean, you're Clarkson at your shooting guard spot.
Yeah.
I think Clarkson is a fantastic.
What guard do we play?
DeJounte? As it currently stands, probably DeJounte, right?
Yeah, I like Claxton more than J-Val.
I like Valanciunas in tournaments. I think he's fine. That he only played the 21 minutes last game because they did just get absolutely brick house. But 36 fantasy points in 29 minutes, 54 fantasy points in 33 minutes, 31 fantasy points in 29 minutes. All 3 games that he's played 29 minutes, he's gone north of 30. Twice he's gone close 40 plus. So I think Valanciunas definitely has a ceiling if that game's 240 total, right? I mean, 240 total in that game.
If we put Jokic, we get $4,600. We know that there's value on this slate. So, are you playing Covington?
I am not currently playing Robert Covington. I'm not opposed to playing Robert Covington because it's Nick Nurse. I would almost like you wouldn't need to if Paul Reed's ruled in, just wouldn't need to.
Well, we don't know that.
I would say as it stands,
we can build a lineup with Reed if you want. Only $4,800 though.
As it stands, I do not have Robert Covington in my build. I also don't have Jokic in my build. Not because I don't want to play Jokic. I think Jokic is one of the better GPP plays of the slate. He's going to be sub whatever percent again because nobody ever plays Jokic. But stacking Atlanta's fine. Trey is absolutely a usage monster, and there's plenty to go around. So this, again, for anyone watching this, is if Embiid were to be, but let me ask you this though: if Embiid were to be ruled out in that case, we probably have to play Maxey, right?
We'd just pivot.
Like we just saw him go for 50.
Right.
He went for 50 actual against Indiana. Bob Cove, Cam J, and a 5K shooting guard. Or a 5K guard.
Yeah.
Or
no, actually, these are both power forward only, but we can move Bogdan to.
You could.
To there. So it'd be a small forward.
You could also switch Covington and Jokic for the position eligibility. Because Covington's at 7 p.m.
Sure. Go Wiggins. get a.
That's I mean, I poo-pooed the Warriors all show. So if you want to get to Wiggins,
Brandon's a shooting guard only kind of. I guess we could do Brandon. Do you think Brandon plays?
He'll play. He had 7 assists. He had 7 assists last game. Well, he had 11.
Do Bogdan back to there. That gives us $1,100. We can move off of
old Bobby Cove.
Old Bobby Cove at 45, or we could keep him and go up from Cam Johnson. I think that might get us another play there.
Yeah, we could go up from Cam J.
Let's see.
We're very close to Michael Porter.
Porter or Gordon? Who's cheaper?
Porter by. Yeah. Yep.
32. I guess we can't. Do we have a 3K? Devontae Graham?
No.
Chetty?
Jesus, take the wheel, John. Chetty.
All right, let's go back to Cam then.
Yeah, go back to Johnson.
We got a 45 util, which we already have 3 Atlanta guys, so we can't really do more than that. Maladon probably plays there. Where's our value? So little value on these slates these days, man. Got Baji. Where's Thor? Where's Thor at? Thor's 42. Can't believe Thor's 42.
Yeah, I would.
It's so gross. That's just why I'm saying it probably comes down to like not playing Joker today because of the way the prices come down. So
yes, because then you don't have to play 4,200 JT Thor.
Right. We're still $100 off our guy, but
play play Claxton at center, and then you can go up to like anyone off Branham. Like possibly coming close to like the
play Halliburton.
I mean, you could plug Halliburton. Do we like?
You liked Kyrie here, so we can go Kyrie. 87 gives a 57 util. Just plug in Stewart.
Yeah,
something like that. Murray, Clarkson, Bogdan, Bay, Claxton, Irving, Johnson, Stewart. Yeah.
We're gonna know really early if we need to stay up for the late games or not.
It's true. Just example lineups for everybody. Again, we'll be in the Discord if you have any questions. Obviously, we'll update you as lineup news comes out. If you haven't already, appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe to the channel. Helps us out. Follow us on Twitter if you're not doing that already, or X. Follow us on X if you're not doing that already. And we'll be back for tomorrow's main slate. Wednesday, pretty decent sized slate going on there. Any final words for the people at home here, James?
No, just again, I think parting words, stay consistent, stay hip to the news, and we'll be in the Discord to deliver any news that breaks from here until like 10 p.m. Really.
It's true. We're always